Welcome to the Maverick Paradox Podcast, where we explore what it is to be a maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you would like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. And today, our guest is Phillip Khan-Panni. Hi, Phillip.
Hello, Judith.
Hi. And can you tell me a bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a professional speaker and I train business people, in telling the right story and telling it well.
That's interesting because I don't normally think of business people as storytellers. Tell me a bit about that.
Okay. Every business has a story to tell, whether they're doing a sales pitch or business presentation or whatever it is. The trouble is most business presentations fail. They fail because they say, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and here's a picture of our factory.
Yes.
No one cares. No one cares.
No.
The real story is not that. The real story is never what you do. The real story is, how can you help me?
I agree. I mean, I work with people to help define what it is that they do. And within that is a telling of a story. But what I find quite interesting when I looked at your website and stuff is that it's not just the defining what they do as part of the story. You also talk about in terms of their business presentation. So how would that look like?
Well, the business presentation really, in fact, all presentation and speeches as well, they all have the same requirement, which is just to talk about their added value. Mm-hmm. What can you give? What can you do for me? You have expertise. You have skills. You have a business background or experience. Whatever it is, you have something that could be of value to me. Don't tell me about what you can do. Don't tell me about your skills. Don't tell me about your aptitude. Don't tell me about your work history. Tell me how you can help me. Now, what I mean by that is try to understand the business I am in and then help me to do my business better using your expertise. Let me explain. Some years ago, I was called in to help an organization that provided the IT systems for large corporates. Mm-hmm. And they prided themselves on being the infrastructure company. That's how they described themselves, the infrastructure company. And I said, it's the wrong focus. What you're doing is you're bragging about your IT systems, and you will satisfy one person in each of your clients. And that is the IT person. They're not in business to have a good IT system. They are in business to deal with me. I'm a customer. So your function in providing the IT system is not to satisfy their IT person, but it is to help them to deal with people like me. It's this transaction, the transaction with me, with customers, that is the one that keeps them in business. Your function is to provide a system that enables that to happen more effectively. Am I making sense to you?
Yes, it is.
So shift the focus of where people aim.
So I've heard you describe yourself as a maverick before.
Yes.
And do you think it's that maverick nature that makes you see things in this way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me tell you a little story. Some years ago, I worked on the Daily Express newspaper, and I was tasked by the managing director to take over classified advertising sales and double the revenue in 1 year. He said, double the revenue in the first year or I will fire you.
Great.
And I said, okay, I'll do it on one condition. He said, what's that? I said, keep out of my way. Let me do it my way. Do not interfere. Don't let anybody else interfere with what I choose to do. So, did I double the revenue in 1 year? No. I tripled it in 10 months. Now, what did I do? I did a number of significant things that nobody else had done before. Let me simplify it. I focused not on selling advertising. I focused on why people need to sell, why people need to advertise. If a company, for example, wants to advertise a job, it's because they have a vacancy. Why have they got a vacancy? Because they have a function that needs fulfilling. So I coached my sales team to talk to advertisers in terms of what they needed to achieve when they advertised. I did something else. I ran a competition for anyone who found a job through the Daily Express would be given a reward, a significant reward. And what that did was to bring advertisers and readers together in a way that no other newspaper was doing or has done since. That produced a huge spike in the advertising that we carried, and a huge spike in the response that advertisers were getting. Now, nobody else was doing that. So why did I do that? How did I achieve that? Simply by focusing on something else, something that nobody else was looking at. I went to the 3 biggest advertising agencies carrying job advertising. They used to carry, big full-page composites in the Daily Telegraph. And I said, I want you to run those in the Daily Express. And they said, we haven't got the budget for that. I said, you won't need a budget. They said, what, you mean you're going to run these ads free? I said, yes, I will run them for you free. And they said, how long will that go on? I said, until you tell me to stop. And they said, well, why would we tell you to stop? I said, because you earn money, you earn 15% commission on the advertising cost. If I get you results for your clients at no cost, you earn nothing. So when I start getting results, when I start getting results for you, for your clients, you will start saying, hey, hang on a minute. This is working. Now, can we now pay you the full rate so that we can earn our 15% commission? They looked utterly astonished. Nobody had ever said that to them. Nobody had ever put that proposition to them. And within 5 weeks, from almost a standing start, I created an alternative marketplace to the Daily Telegraph.
Wow. And
that is why in just 10 months, I took revenue in today's terms. I took classified ad revenue from the equivalent of 9.25 million to 29.25 million pounds in 10 months.
That's amazing.
That's being a maverick.
What I find interesting there is that what often happens is that Mavericks don't just try to fix the symptom because they know that that's a zero-sum game. They always try to see what the real problem is and to work out erasing that problem rather than just a symptom. And I think that's kind of a fundamental difference to how conformists think.
Yes. What I'm guided by a small number of opinion leaders who have written very interesting books. Can I quickly mention half a dozen of them?
Sure.
There's Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote David and Goliath, Simon Sinek, who wrote Start With Why, John Kay, who wrote Obliquity, Robert Cialdini, who wrote Influence about persuasion, Seth Godin wrote about tribes, and Steve Peters wrote about the chimp paradox. What do they have in common? What they have in common is doing what is not obvious. All of them have a prism. A prism takes something ordinary, that's light, and when you pass the light through the prism, it changes to something different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's what they do. So they have different, they write of different ways of competing, different ways of seeing a product, a different element in the problem, a different approach to persuasion, different take on leadership, and a different model of our own behavior, which is what the chimp paradox is. So by finding something, they have a vision a vision that enables them to see something that nobody else sees or understands about the situation, a problem, a product, an offering. And they say, this is where you have to focus your attention and bring this to the attention of people. Now, when I'm selling, when I train people in selling as well, I say, look, Stop thinking in terms of selling benefits. That's what everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
You are expected to mention the benefits of your offering, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
That's what everyone is expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So why not offer them something that they're not expecting? And the offering, the core of the sales pitch that I recommend is to focus on the cost of not saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you're offering something to somebody. Why would they buy it? Because they have a need. If they don't have a need, your offering is irrelevant. So you have to understand what their need is. Don't hit them with a whole pile of benefits. Talk to them about what it would cost them not to satisfy that need. When you do that, yeah, go on.
So it's not quite the opportunity cost, is it? Because that's the other end of it.
Yes.
Okay.
I used to sell management consultancy services
Mm-hmm.
in my mid-20s. I remember the first sale I did. It was to the managing director of a small plastics manufacturing company not far from London. The offering of my company was we would do an initial survey of the business, identifying the strengths and weaknesses. And then if the client wanted something done about the weaknesses, then we would quote him for full-blown management consultancy. Now, everyone on the sales force they focused on that low-cost initial survey. That was an easy sell.
Yeah.
Everyone except me. What I did with the first chap was I said to him, I told him the story, and he said he was very interested in having a professional assessment of his business, but he said he wanted to think about it. So I pulled out my wallet and I said, "Is your business perfect?" He said, "No business is perfect." So I pulled out some money and said, "What if you could see what it costs you when someone makes a mistake in production?" And I just scattered the money on the floor. I carried on scattering money and saying, what if you could see what it costs when people don't turn up for work? What if you could see the cost of all the other inefficiencies that might exist in your business and which you are allowing to go ahead? And I carried on talking. He wasn't listening. So I stopped and said, "What would you like me to do?" He said, "Pick up the money." People get very nervous when they see money lying on the floor. And I said, "Yes, but if that was your money, wouldn't you want somebody to come along and help you pick it up?" He got the point.
That sounds good. So all the people that you mentioned earlier are all either socialised Mavericks or socialising Mavericks. And do you think there's a particular reason why they think in a different way?
Why they think in a different way? Well, they are constitutionally Mavericks.
Mm.
A Maverick is someone who doesn't go with the herd. And people who think differently, they're not. I mean, the paradox of what you're talking about when you talk about the Maverick leadership, for example, the paradox is that a Maverick doesn't like following and doesn't believe in following, and also doesn't actually believe in having followers, and yet they are the ones who have the ideas that provide the most entertaining, most exhilarating form of leadership, because it shows people how to do things that nobody else thought of doing. And that's why they are so, why they are opinion leaders, because they come up with ideas and an approach to things that will get unusual results.
Yeah, and now let me just add a little bit of a nuance there. So in my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders, we look at the 4 different types of people, and we look specifically at socialised Mavericks and extreme Mavericks and the differences there. And I would say that, generally speaking, Mavericks don't like following people unless they respect that person and they believe in the thing that they want to do. So they believe in the bigger picture, so they will follow for that. But if it becomes a principled thing, they'll stop following if their principles are done. And socialised Mavericks tend to be the very good leaders because they are influential, they are working for the greater good, and they know how to pull people along with them to achieve this greater goal. So I wouldn't say that they don't like traditional leadership where they're expected to tell people what to do and the person follows. No, don't like that. They expect to collaborate with people. So show the big picture, work with them. So the idea of a socialized maverick in terms of maverick leadership is to grow another leader, regardless of where that person sits in the organization, they want a department of leaders. That would be the aim of the socialized maverick leader, but they wouldn't be able. I agree with you. If you're thinking like leadership in the traditional sense, no, because that's just wasteful in time and energy. So they wouldn't want that. Is that a fair nuance to what you were saying?
Yes, it is. But I just want to underline two things about that. One is the mindset that enables a maverick to observe and discover an unusual way of looking at a situation. And then there's a separate thing, a separate skill, which is how to put that across in a way which is more socially acceptable.
Yes.
Now, a lot of mavericks have the perception, they have the perspicacity, but they don't have the social skills to put it across in a way which is acceptable. So mavericks need to learn and develop those skills to become more socialized. And then their ideas will be more acceptable.
Yes, I totally agree. I mean, I've been in situations where organisations have asked me to come and save their maverick because they don't want to. There's a pull between the HR team wanting to get rid of the maverick. The maverick is causing a lot of legal issues, maybe harassment and bullying and things like that. But you've got the line that looks at them saying they're the top salesman or the top consultant. So you've got that pull, and often it is showing how you can go from manipulation to influence, and to show how does the maverick get what they need to do. How do they get that done? By bringing along other people. What's the compelling reason for change? But you're right. Socialized mavericks are small in number, much smaller than any other group, which is, I suppose, it's my mission to help other people emulate them and to make sure that we can help to propagate what needs to be done. Yeah.
Well, I mean, a maverick will always find a different way, an unexpected way of arriving at the solution. For example, if you were running a tennis tournament with 64 players, how many matches do you have to arrange? Well, most people will say, well, round one, there'll be 32 matches because there's 64 players, and then round two, and they will add up mechanically. The maverick will say, hang on a minute, there's 64 players, there are going to be 63 losers, therefore you must have 63 matches. It's that simple. It's simply a totally different way of looking and a non-linear way of arriving at the solution.
Yeah, I like that. I love the idea of a non-linear pathway, because I think, I think what mavericks tend to do, they're very good at strategic thinkers. Not necessarily strategic planners, but strategic thinkers. So they're looking at the whole thing at whole at a time. And a lot of other people tend to try to use inductive reasoning. Let's move from this point to this point to this point. Whereas the maverick is going, what do you want to do? How you want to get there? Okay, this is what needs to happen. And sometimes part of the communication problem is that the maverick is a very fast thinker. So they can see it very quickly. And what most mavericks have to learn, although I definitely had to learn, was how to communicate how that thinking process took place for people that don't know you, because they assume you've guessed. It's like, no, it's well thought out. It just only took me 2 minutes.
But that's the kind of thinking that I like to put across when I'm training people through my business, which I now call speakingandpresentationskills.com. And I help people to understand their added value and how to put that across in a way which is unexpected, entertaining, and surprising.
Yes. That sounds good. And that sounds like a fantastic place to stop. Thank you for coming, Philip. Will you come back again?
Whenever you like.
Fantastic. Cool.
Judith.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox Podcast. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my conversation with Philip as much as I enjoyed having it. If you would like to learn more about Mavericks and leadership, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, apply to join the Maverick Paradox exclusive Facebook group, and my website is maverickparadox.com. Find out how willful independence can ultimately change all our futures. Thanks again, and see you soon.